Now, we're now going to be getting to the details of our discussion this morning, our conversation this morning. It has to do with the fact that Ghana has dropped in ranking as far as world press freedom is concerned. Now, I will start with the statement that was issued by the Reporters Without Borders. It's actually a campaign group. So Reporters Without Borders. I will be walking you through the highlights of the statement that it issued because it's a very lengthy one. We can't bore you with everything in there. And then we'll also bring you some sound bites. So persons like Adams Bona, who's a security analyst, has had to comment on this matter. We'll bring you that. Fortunately, he's with us in the studio. He'll perhaps throw some more light on that. And then I'll also introduce the other guests who have joined me in the studio. So perhaps let me do that. So I have the National Youth Organizer of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Mr. George Opariado. He's with us. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
I also do have Mr. Adams Bona himself, who's a security analyst. Sir, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. This fact is Dr. Adams Bona. I nearly forgot to do that. We'll also be joined on via Zoom, Shamima Muslim. She is also, well, once a journalist, always a journalist. She's the convener for the Women in Media Africa. She'll also be joining us at some point during the conversation, something that she's very passionate about. She would actually give us her thoughts. But in the meantime, this is how the press release was couched by Reporters Without Borders. And it says that a 20th World Press Freedom Index published by Reporters Without Borders revealed a twofold increase in polarization amplified by information chaos. That is, media polarization fueling divisions within countries as well as polarization between countries at the international level. It goes ahead to say that a 2022 edition of the World Press Freedom Index, which assesses the state of journalism in 180 countries and territories, highlights the disastrous effects of news and information chaos. The effects of a globalized It goes ahead to say that the effects of a globalized and unregulated online information space that encourages fake news and propaganda. Within democratic societies, divisions are growing as a result of the spread of opinion media following the Fox News model and the spread of disinformation circuits that are amplified by the way social media functions. At the international level, democracies are being weakened by the asymmetry between open societies and despotic regimes that control the media and online platforms while waging propaganda wars against democracies. Polarization on these two levels is fueling increased tension. And then it goes ahead to walk us through a table. So you have Africa, the Americas, you have Asia Pacific, you have Europe, Central Asia, and then you also have Maghreb, Middle East. And as you can tell shortly, it will be displayed on the screen so you can have a sense of what I'm talking about. Now, Africa, as usual, we've dropped quite badly. The Europe, Central Asia, not doing bad, but Americas are doing quite well. Asia Pacific doing quite well. Europe, Central Africa, well, not bad. Maghreb, Middle East is also not bad at all. But Africa appears to be where the problem is. Now, let me just end with this. And it says the trial of the Nordic countries at the top of the index, and it explains why the Nordic countries are doing well. It says Norway, Denmark, and Sweden continues to serve as a democratic model where freedom of expression flourishes, while Moldova, which is 40th, and Bulgaria, 91st, stand out this year thanks to a government change and the hope it has brought for improvement. It goes on and on and on. Now, the situation is classified as very bad in a record number of 28 countries in this year's index, while 12 countries, including Belarus, 153rd, and Russia, 155th, are on the index red list, indicating very bad press freedom situations on the map. And again, if you grab the statements, you can get the details of that as well. So as you can tell, we're scrolling that on the screen. Now, the Information Ministry then issues a press statement. And this is what the Ministry of Information says. Statement on RFS Press Freedom Index. It says, the government of Ghana takes note of 2022 World Press Freedom Ranking by Reporters Without Borders. It is our understanding that the 2022 report was developed with a new methodology by RSF, which considers the following broad areas: legal framework, justice system, technological censorship, surveillance, disinformation, propaganda, arbitrary detention proceedings, independence, pluralism, models and good practices, media sustainability, violence against journalists. And it says the report was also impacted by unregulated online media spaces that served as conduits for spreading fake news and disinformation, and that it's a situation that was exacerbated by social media endorsement. And that the report further indicates that the advent of opinion media and propaganda coupled with ownership of traditional media houses by politicians, 30%, partly accounted for the new ranking. Now, I'm more interested in what the way forward is. Now, this is what the government says the way forward is in dealing with how Ghana has performed poorly in terms of its press freedom ranking. It says the way forward. It says, despite the caution from the publishers of the report that care should be taken when comparing the 2022 rankings and scores with those from 2021 in light of the new methodology, the government of Ghana, in pursuance of its desire to continuously promote press freedom and the safety of journalists, intends to do the underlisted. 1, work in collaboration with the National Media Commission to deepen the execution of the coordinated mechanism in the safety of journalists, collaborate with stakeholders, including civil society organizations, in deepening education for state and non-state actors on the safety of journalists to address the RFS concern about the poor economic conditions of most journalists in the country. Government continues to engage with media associations, including media owners, to improve the working and economic conditions of journalists, and also to collaborate with stakeholders in the fight against disinformation and spread of fake news. In conclusion, Ghana's democracy is at work in progress overall. Therefore, government welcomes the report as a baseline. And this is very instructive. Government says this report must be treated as a baseline reference document. What it means is that as far as government is concerned, this is new. So there is no basis for comparison. You can't compare the 2022 report to 2021, 2022, and that which was done in the past, because the methodology or the parameters that was used in arriving at this conclusion is entirely different. So that's what government says. And so, and it goes ahead to say, baseline reference document against which press freedom in our country may be gauged in the coming days. And it's signed by Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, who is the minister. Before I go ahead, let me just quickly state this, that in the past, these were the indicators that were used. So you had just pluralism, media independence, environment and self-censorship, and then you have legislative framework, transparency, infrastructure, and abuse. So those were the parameters. Now it has changed. Media landscape, political context, economic context, safety of journalists. There's no much time. I would have walked you through the granular details of these ones. So I'm just going to go straight ahead and pick the thoughts of my resource persons who are here with us this morning. So I'll start with, perhaps let me start with Mr. Charles Bissiu, who is an aspiring General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, but is also the Western Regional Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. It's a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you too.
This is damning as far as the government's relationship with the press is concerned. You agree?
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners and my colleague panelists. I do not agree.
Okay.
First of all, it is normative. I mean, I'll give you an example where SSS graduates write their SSC exams, right, and then come out with results aggregate 12, okay, in a certain year, and then maybe 100,000 of them, all of them get aggregate 12 and between 12 and 14, and then the following year, another 150,000 fall under the brackets of what maybe aggregate 10. It doesn't mean that the aggregate 12 have failed.
Right.
It is just normative in the sense that they all qualify to actually go into the university. As you said, the government has come out with a statement indicating that the methodology has changed. So, I mean, it's obvious that if it's changed, then the parameters within which the previous one from 2013 to 2021 has changed. Now, what the new one that came in, I am happy to see the economic aspect of it,
yes,
where the remuneration and all that within the media industry, the journalists and all that has been included. And it means that for what the government is saying, it's giving us a baseline to actually surge forward, because in our system, our pay structure isn't proportionate to what we do, and our economy is a developing one. So when if you look at the civil service, the public sector, and all that, we are all agitating for better remuneration and better conditions of service. So adding that of the journalists is something that I believe is the step in the right direction. Okay. But if you look at it, the whole improvement is that in some aspect, the legal framework that was actually used as one of the indicators. We even did better than countries like Netherlands, Switzerland, and all that. Canada was, I think, 17th or so,
right.
And then Netherlands.
To be fair, you scored about 80-something%.
Exactly, 86. Regard. So, like I'm saying, it's normative, because if somebody gets a 12 and can go to one of the best schools, and then somebody gets 10, and then the following year there's a larger number of people who passed, it doesn't mean that you failed. Mm-hmm. For me, it is a step in the right direction, because this government has actually shown the way. You remember when we had the criminal libel law, which was draconian. When President Kufuor came to the helm of affairs, we actually repealed it. Then the president now was Attorney General then, and he oversaw that, and it was assented to. And then journalists could actually freely come out and express their views without the threat of being incarcerated and all that.
Right.
Following that, the Right to Information Bill was also passed. This is a step in the right direction, and this government has actually shown that we would want to work with the fourth estate of the realm. Mm-hmm. For me, one thing that I've seen that they haven't included as the journalists themselves, the work that they do, because I've seen the police force interdicting their own, the military interdicting their own. We're in a system where the Journalists Association itself, it's a good organization, let me put it that way. But then we still have bad nuts in there. So as we have the civil service and all that, and it's a society that we're all driving at. So I remember a report, I think in the 2021, last year. I'll find the name of that report. It says that about 59% of journalists actually try to misinform and all that.
Right.
So I believe that they should actually angle that into, because for me, certainly I'm an example of front of some journalists which they misinform the general public. And I remember before that the Anna's expose, I think Dr. Adam Bona came to my office,
right,
and spoke to me about security of the office and all that. But then,
right,
then they had to go to ministers and all that. Then that thing came up. So I'm looking at the whole society, how we're driving. Like the government is saying, this is a baseline for it. Because if we have bad nuts in all organizations, then there would be some in the area of journalism as well, where we think that sometimes we use the expertise or what we know, where we are in a fiduciary position to actually intimidate people and all. Some journalists also do that,
right,
say that it's an agenda. And within our system, I think that the political clientelism itself within our political jurisdiction is also a problem.
Right.
Because in the report, it talks about political parties' interference. For example, most of the radio stations in the country belong to political party.
Right. Political actors, you mean?
Yes, you see. So if I'm an MPP and I've actually, set up my own radio station, you wouldn't want it to go against me. Right. But then it doesn't mean that all of them do that, because I believe that you have your editorial, you have, the tenets within which you should work.
Okay.
So it doesn't actually stop politicians to having radio stations.
Right.
But we must adhere to the regulations and guidelines within that profession.
Right.
Because I've seen the Ghana Bar Association, even though, yes, they might belong to political parties, but then I've seen them punishing their own. But I've never seen the Ghana Journalists Association punishing their own.
Okay.
It's like everybody is free for all.
Right.
So I think that, to conclude, I believe that the political colorization of our the journalism landscape should be looked into, and then follow the guidelines on that. So I fully support what the government is coming
It will also
out.
be interesting for you to know that in as much as you are painting a certain picture of, all is well, except that perhaps there have been some exaggeration.
Yeah.
The report also specifically talks about certain events or activities that have happened in this country to sort of buttress the point I'm making about the fact that when it comes to safety of journalists, it is deteriorating. But the economic aspect, I will In fact, we're putting up a slide shortly on the screens. And I'm going to read to you exactly what it talks about the economic aspect in terms of the economic conditions under which journalists are working. It says economic context. In Ghana, most media outlets, so you can see that
Yes.
clearly written on the screen. So I think you can look at that yourself. Yeah, so that's with the economic context.
Exactly.
Okay, where it talks about working conditions for journalists, and so on, a state-owned media, and so on and so that's what
Exactly.
that's what I'm saying. You actually pointed that out.
Exactly.
Okay, so we'll look at the economics of it, the economic conditions under which journalists works. But I think what is of grave concern, and to I'm sure national security analysts, security analysts and so on, would be the issue of the safety of journalists. And you see, the report doesn't end there. It goes ahead to talk about the events of the past.
Yes.
Which goes to sort of buttress the point that the safety of journalists have deteriorated quite significantly. So we'll get into that aspect as well. But I like your preliminary thoughts on the matter. Let me now come to the national organizer of the NDC, George Oparado. What do you have to say about the report? I mean, when you saw that, I don't know how he jumped at you when you saw the report in the first place.
Good morning to your viewers. I was not surprised.
Right.
Happenings in this country today, nobody should think that he is surprised about what has been put out there. We all saw it coming. We've all seen how, in the last 2-3 years, how journalists have been treated in this country. We've all seen how national security operatives have been used in brutalizing journalists. We've also seen how state power has been used in clamping down on media houses that supposedly are not in support of the current administration. And we've seen how people have been killed. We saw how Ahmed Swale was gunned down. And we saw how Kaka, who was a social media activist, he may not have been a journalist, but activities that led to his death was because he was out there posting the ills of this government. So we've all seen how these things have played out. So if anybody sits anywhere and says that he's a bit surprised about the issues that came out from these reports, it leaves much to be desired, because every well-meaning Ghanaian knew that where we were heading towards was not what we were promised. So clearly, where we sit today, for me, I keep saying that we don't need international organizations to come and tell us what the realities are. We see them happen every day. We saw how Captain Smart was hunted out of Adom FM. We saw how phone calls came when he went to Angel FM, and how his boss was threatened about some tax issues and asked to be laid off. We all saw it, we all heard it. So why are we behaving as if we are surprised about things that are happening? When Manas Azuria, when he did his, was it something in the city?
Something about vigilante, the one that he filmed, some persons at the castle. Right.
Come out to say that they were scared for his safety, and so they had to sneak him out of the country. These are trends that were happening, and nothing was done. We have seen how national security operatives went to City FM just to arrest Zoe Abubedu and Caleb
Kuda, right.
We all saw the Rambo style in which they went in there. And what happened? It had to take media people to come out again and criticize this government. So if anybody says that he's surprised at this report, then the person is just being disingenuous. Because clearly, we have seen a sharp deterioration in our media space, especially with how governments have used state power to clamp down on supposed media houses that do not sync with them.
The government says these persons who are harassing or may have brutalized journalists are not, they call them the non-state actors. So these are persons they may not know.
So
let's treat it as such.
So if Azugu, who was a national security operative, lead his men from the National Security Office and invade City FM, and you tell me they are non-state actors, when National Security Operative goes out there and arrests modern Ghana journalists and throws them into detention when nobody knows their whereabouts, and you tell me they are non-state actors. They are non-state actors. We also saw how Ohineba Boama was arrested and incarcerated for 14 days. Today, we have criminalized speech. So, yes, we may have repealed the criminal libel law, But in another form, it is still there because you are not very sure what will take you to jail today. We have seen how state actors have gone out there in arrest of Bobi Ansah and co. I was in court the day Bobi Ansah was arrested. So clearly, nobody can convince anybody that those who have done some of these acts are not state actors. If government wants us to believe it, that it has no hand in this, those who perpetrate such actions, what sanctions have been applied against those people? For instance, the national security operatives that invaded City FM. What has government done about it? As we sit today, nobody has been punished for that invasion of City FM. So because you want to arrest one person, and our criminal procedures tells us how you should arrest. So it is not rocket science. If I want to arrest Moro, I will do. I'll just have to maybe reach out to his programs director, ask him to produce you. It is when you resist arrest that we can now come and apply force. But when none of that is done, and then you send brute force into the studios of a TV or a radio station just to arrest. The day I didn't know Zori, but the day I saw Zori and I looked at the force that was applied in going to bring her to the office of the national, I was a bit surprised.
Relative to her size.
No, but she's too peaceful.
The fact that she's smallish, and yet the persons who came for her were big. And you're wondering why.
I was totally surprised.
Right.
And so what I expect from governments is a bit more, is accepting responsibility and telling us they'll do better.
Right.
But to start using indicators, and I ask myself, yes, the new methodology is new, but countries like Burkina Faso, were they not subjected to the new methodology as well?
Right.
As I speak to you, do we have democracy or military rule in Burkina Faso? If you look at safety of journalists for Burkina Faso, they were doing 81.60. And then you compare Ghana, the beacon of democracy in Africa, and we are doing 62.25. You begin to ask yourself, what are we doing? To drop 30 points, irrespective of what the indexes may look like, to drop 30 points is significant. And so we must subject it to interrogation and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? Legal framework has always been in existence. And you see, our brothers on the other side are quick to take credits for the passage of the Right to Information Bill. We should give them that because it was during their era that the bill was passed. But of what significance, of what importance have that bill brought to bear in indexes like this? Clearly nothing.
Right.
I listened to Charles here do an analysis of how 100,000 students get segregated. So, you see, once you all belong to the same platform, and the standards that are used in measuring your performance are not any different from the same standards that were used in measuring performances of other countries. When you fail, you failed. If you drop 30 points, you failed. Let's admit failure and tell ourselves we'll do better. But this government is notorious for one thing. It never accepts responsibility for anything. In the worst case event, don't be surprised when the president speaks, he says that we should blame this drop on President Mahama, because that has been their stock in trade. They always look for examples. They always look for punching bags. If it is not Ukraine war, it is COVID. Don't be surprised the next time you question His Excellency on why have we dropped 30 points on this index. Don't be surprised he tells you that it is President Mahama that is responsible for this drop. What governments do and what governments are elected to do is to take responsibility.
Right.
It is when you take responsibility. I've seen a statement from the Minister of Information, Kwadwo, and I'm asking myself, was all these reasons necessary? Because the report itself tells us what indexes were used. And so anybody who wants to subject the report to proper interrogation will go and look at the report, do his own analysis, and come to his conclusions. But you don't need anybody from anywhere telling you about happenings in this country.
So in your view, this report has only confirmed what you've been saying.
It has not just confirmed, it has brought to light the ills that are happening under this government in terms of press freedom.
Right. Let me do this. Let me bring in Dr. Adam Bonah, but I also need to let you know that Madame Gloria, yes, Oforibo, yes, she's a private legal practitioner. She's joined us. She'll be joining us. She'll be joining the table shortly in a few seconds. But maybe let me bring in Dr. Adam Bonah to this conversation because, Doc, again, if you read the report, and this for me is what is worrying about what the report talks about. It says that the ranking which so it says, according to the report, although Ghana was considered a regional leader in democratic stability, journalists have experienced growing pressure in recent years. And it says to protect their jobs and the security, they increasingly resort to self-censorship as the government shows itself intolerant of criticisms. Now, in addition, 1/3 of media outlets are owned by politicians, yes. And it says in 2020, reporters covering the effectiveness of anti-COVID-19 measures were attacked by security forces. Any political leaders are political leaders are making death threats against investigative journalists. Nearly all cases of law enforcement officers attacking journalists are not pursued. In Africa, it says recent wave of draconian laws criminalizing online journalism and death had dealt a new blow to the right to information. Now, this is for me, it says the report noted that the 180 countries and territories ranked by the RSF indicators were assessed on the basis of quantitative survey of press freedom violation abuses against journalists and media. I mean, for a country which was a leader in terms of protecting the rights of journalists to have dropped this badly, but where do you think, first of all, do you think this is a reflection of the reality that we are all experiencing? Or perhaps there's been some kind of an exaggeration?
Well, yes. Good morning, and good morning to my colleague panelists and viewers. Well, I would want to start from where my co-panelists were. Yes, George. I wouldn't actually say speech has been criminalized in this country. Some of us still speak freely. I mean,
right.
If it is good, I will say it. If it is bad, I would equally do my analysis. But that notwithstanding, I would say that we have had a series of issues when it has to do with some journalists and media houses who have also come under attack, either by some political figureheads or some security officers. If you ask me, I would say that you cannot actually separate what we are seeing with the current leadership, in fact, at the party level of the MPP. You know why?
Why?
Why? Because from where I sit, and I think last week I was here, it has to do with bad leadership.
Bad leadership?
Bad leadership on the part of some. I'm happy my good friend Bisu is contesting to be a leader. I think General Secretary.
He wants to become the General Secretary
General
of the New
Secretary.
Patriotic
I wish
Party.
him well. He speaks well, and his demeanor. So for me, it has to do with bad leadership. And so you see, if you look at the arrangement with regards to our national security structure.
Okay.
The arrangement indicates that you would have the DISEC, MUSEC, RECSEC, and what have you. These are the arrangements. Good. When you go to the local level, who are the people who are in charge? Mm-hmm. Those who are in charge usually would include some of these names or organizations I'm mentioning. Mm-hmm. And so you would have a situation where a bad leader at the local level liaises with a bad leader who is supposed to be representing government.
Yeah.
They go to attack a media house or a media personality. The district police commander, the person who chairs the district security council is the DC.
Yes.
The DC or the MCs and the regional ministers are usually overwhelmed. The moment they become overwhelmed, because you have a bad, maybe national, what do you call it, a bad constituency chairman, bad, maybe some of these parties, I mean, we've seen them. They sit on radio, say all sorts of things, and you ask yourself, this is the party that has formed government. Therefore, we expect leadership of this party to behave themselves. But some of them, I won't say all of them. And so some of us want to see a situation where, I think already some notable bad figures have lost their positions at the constituency level. Hopefully we'll go to the regional level, then to the national level. Once we begin to see that cascading effect, we are likely to see an improvement in next year's ranking.
Okay.
So watch it. I'm not a prophet, but I'm just doing an analysis. I'm telling you that once the party people themselves decide to put in people who are a bit mindful of the fact that MPP alone cannot vote and bring MPP into power. But then you have persons like me who are sitting in the middle and want to appreciate what you are doing and would want to either vote there or vote there. We are watching. And so it is what you do today that will let me, probably your party, appeal to me. But as we sit today, I'm sure you know what is going on in the country. Let's go back to what Honorable Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah said about the baseline survey. I disagree with him entirely. America had, is it 43? America was 43.
Yes, 43.
A journalist who is like you in America is earning about $5,000 a month.
Yes.
Right? $5,000 a month.
Yes.
A journalist who, at your level,
Right.
in the U.S., working for maybe a big media house like, this
Metro
media
Television.
house, will be earning about $5,000. Yet America dropped. Right? America was 43. And so mine is that I'm happy in Honorable Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah's response, or the government's response, some admitted that some work needs to be done. But mine is that, we can set our own parameters and say it's a baseline survey. But I would have wished that Reporters Without Borders would indicate that this is a baseline survey because the methodology changed. Mine is that it's the same yardstick that was used for all of us.
Right.
Burkina Faso did better than we did. Cape Verde did better than we did. Cote d'Ivoire, all of these countries I'm mentioning are not very stable. Okay, you would have Alassane Ouattara. He amended the constitution and ran for a third term or ran for another term.
Right.
And some of us security people have been criticizing that he's not fit to be telling others who have undertaken coups not to undertake coups. But yet, they did better than us, isn't it? So mine is that there is a problem. And government cannot separate itself. I have heard my, sister, what's her name, the Deputy Minister of Information.
That's Fatima Abubakar.
You have some overzealous police officers. And I say that all prosecutions are done on behalf of the government of Ghana, by extension, on behalf of the Attorney General. If the Attorney General decides that, a certain criminal prosecution shouldn't go to court, you cannot go to court. And I work closely with the police and all the other security agencies.
Right.
This is not somebody telling me. I can tell you that some cases that are supposed to go to court have not ended up in court. So it's very simplistic.
And the reason is?
Well, if the state is not interested in the case,
Yes.
the police cannot proceed.
Right. So that's the reason.
So, as for if the state is not interested, the police cannot proceed. If I was a police investigator investigating, let's say, the case of Ahmed Swallow, I'm not saying that is what has happened, and the docket ended up somewhere and it doesn't come back again, it means that until it comes up, probably you can't do much. And so mine is that let's look at it and say, we have fallen short. And I have heard, my brother BCU say, when you look at the rating, all the countries that had below 70, they say problematic. It means we have I would probably take that to be we have failed. Or you go in there, you will see from
Problematic,
69.
Yes. Problematic.
Problematic.
It means there are serious problems there.
It means that
in those
there are
countries.
serious problems. When you go beyond that, from 70, they say satisfactory, right? And so if there was a cutoff, all of us are going to be put in the ocean. And so mine is that I would want a situation where we admit the fact that we have a big problem. But I would not say that speech has been criminalized. I would usually mention you by name if you got it wrong.
Right.
And it wouldn't, and I haven't really, you won't have probably attacks here and there depending on who you are, because mine is that, the president in his inaugural speech said we should be citizens and not spectators, isn't it? So as far as I'm concerned, these are matters that are dear to some of us, and I would want to see the national security. For instance, the modern Ghana journalists,
Yes,
their
who
laptops are still with the
assaulted.
national security.
Yeah.
Their laptops are still with the national security. And I am sure that you know that you cannot seize my electronic equipment without a court warrant. I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. And so mine is that these are some of the, I think over the period, national security is now, I can see them improving. You have the national security minister. He's somebody, I'm one of his fiercest critics. Now, I must admit, Honorable Kandapa seems to be bringing some interesting perspectives to, the security architecture in terms of national security, where he's telling us what they intend to do, what they have to do. But some of us don't want to see that only in speech. We want to see it in reality, so that you don't have because you can see. And all these things you are talking about, let's not forget that amongst even the political parties, when they have their internal contests, that is where sometimes some of these things, if maybe you are a journalist or a reporter from Metro TV, goes somewhere and is reporting, even within their internal, but sometimes if you are not careful, you are seen to be supporting someone, you will be beaten. And so some of the things have also happened within the confines of the political parties within. Then once it's happening and we are not doing anything about it, you are going to have a cascading effect, up. You are going to have, then Ayawaso West Wagon, rare.
But I'm saying that if there are infractions within, let's say, at an event organized by a political party, do you honestly think that will be recorded as an attack on the rights of journalists? Or would that be attributed to Ghana? Would Ghana be blamed for it? So, for instance, would it feature, for instance, in the report which has been authored by the Reporters Without Borders?
I started my intro by saying, look at our security architecture.
Right.
It's a bit flawed. And so let's say, my brother here, BCU, hopefully he becomes the general secretary of the party.
You seem to be campaigning for him.
No, I'm not campaigning for him, but you see, some of us.
But he's loving it.
You see, my point is that you see, like I said, some of us. Let me tell you what. Some of us want to see a very sanitized country.
Right.
And if Ghana will be sanitized, we need
Right.
MPP, NDC, MPP to be
starts from-
sanitized.
it starts from-
You don't want rogue leaders. The more you have rogue leaders leading these parties,
Yes.
the more you will see, it translating into the national architecture.
Garbage in, garbage
And so mine is that I started my intro by saying that if you have a rogue, maybe regional chairman, a rogue constituency, who are the people who recommend people
Right.
to be DCs and MCs?
Right.
I mean, he knows.
So
They make the
I think
recommendations.
the point you're making is that the leadership we choose at the political level
Yes, and so when they choose
largely influences and informs what happens at
yes.
the national
So
level.
if they are having their national, local context,
Yes.
and you media man, you go there and you are beaten.
You're brutalized.
And anybody tells me that shouldn't be linked to government. Why shouldn't that be linked to government? Because then if the police would have to prosecute the hoodlums who beat up that journalist,
And they fail to do so.
and they fail to do so because the regional chairman or the regional minister have come in to say, if you want, you do it, we'll get you transferred. What are you going to do?
I
What
get
I'm
it.
trying to say is that you cannot delink these things from one another.
Okay.
They are interrelated.
Okay.
And so I am only hoping, and I say, I don't, it is up to whoever takes it, the way you take it.
Yep.
I mean, I have met him, this is about the second time I'm meeting him,
Yep.
but mine is that I watch him on TV, I'm sure he watches me, and the way I speak here is not different from the way I speak. Last week I said some of the things here and he wasn't here. I'm not campaigning for him, but mine is that we would want the political parties, George Opari and his people, when they are, and yourself, when you are electing, elect the right leaders.
Right.
But when you elect rogue leaders, what we are seeing is something, is a true reflection of what is happening in terms
Okay.
of press freedom. And
All
so if they clean their house, I'm telling you that we'll see a reflection in 2023.
I hear. Let me now go to Shamima Muslim. She is one of us. She's a journalist. Let me just pick her thoughts on Ghana's global ranking as far as press freedom is concerned. Shema Muslim, what are your thoughts? But before you even, first of all, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Hello, Shema, can you hear me? Hello? I think there's some connection challenges. Once we're able to sort that out, we'll come back to Shamima to pick her thoughts on the World Press Freedom Index, which is the subject we're looking at this morning. But in case you have any comments or any contributions you want to make, please send us a message to 05000 25621. 05000 25621. 05000, as in 05000 25621. Shamima, do we have a clearer line now?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Right.
I
was saying good morning to you and good morning to your guest as well.
Right. And we're happy to have you on the show. Now, Shamima, that's this for you. Can we situate this conversation within the context of the U.S. Department of State Human Rights Report, which came out for 2021, which came out, I think, last week or so, where it talks about the fact that it highlights key human rights issues in various countries, including Ghana. It talks about significant human rights issues, including credible reports of arbitrary, unlawful killings by government or its agencies, cases of cruel, inhumane, degrading treatment, punishment by the government, and so on and so forth. You've seen that. I'm sure you've seen that report. And then a week later, we're now being told by Journalists Without Frontiers that we are performing very abysmally when it comes to press freedom. I don't know how we can interrelate the two reports or help us interrelate the two reports.
Well, although the methodologies may not be the same, I think the issues they seek to highlight are quite similar, and nobody should be surprised. And I'm happy. I mean, I've been monitoring conversations since yesterday, and there seems to be some agreement that, there is a problem. And if there's a problem, it is best we begin to accept there's a problem and begin to take actions to, resolve the problems. Because multiple different agencies, institutions, individuals cannot be saying the same thing if it is not the truth or the true reflection on the ground. And, yesterday I was saying that a prophet is never really respected in his country because these reports are a reflection of the local reality and local conversations. Mind you, these are quantitative studies, and questionnaires were sent out, and individuals within all these countries filled out those questionnaires, including journalists, including human rights activists, including media development agencies, including even state actors. We all filled out those forms. So if locally journalists are expressing themselves and they are disquiet and their fears, and their experiences, their lived experiences, verifiable names of individuals who have come under some form of attack. And anytime the conversation comes up, it is watered down as people try to cry wolf when there's really no wolf in the room. This is what will happen. You will sit yourself pretty, and an international ranking agency would go and drop you 30 points down. Now, I hear people say that, or government in their statement indicate that this is a new baseline, study. And so we shouldn't, including the report itself, the writers of the report caution that we shouldn't compare to previous years. So even if we were looking at this particular report in and of itself without any comparison, we are 60 out of 180 countries. We are in the problematic brackets when there's good, when there's satisfactory brackets where we could have been. I mean, these same agencies, when they ranked us third in Africa, we're very proud about it. We felt dignified that at least, again, Ghana was showing the light within the sub-region, which is rightly so, because our history is that we were first within the sub-Saharan African country to gain independence and to show the way. So sometimes I'm saying that we must not be so quick to want to compare ourselves to the weakest links, because we have come so far that we should have been further ahead as a nation in all of our governance indicators. We have chosen democracy as a vehicle for governance. Democracy, it's a tough job. It's not just words and ideals. And that's why sometimes people express disappointment that within this particular regime of President Akufo-Addo, we seem to be applying this law harshly on publishing false, information quite harshly. And the optics are not good. The optics are not good at all. And this is what is leading to the report that we are now seeing, where the information minister is now conceding that we have to sit back around the table and see how we implement, the initiatives. We are faring well with the legal context and the political context because, yes, we have the necessary legal regime. But if you apply the law arbitrarily, if you apply the law in a heavy-handed way, you create perceptions. And the fact of the matter is that no matter how much you want to discount the experiences as being far and in between, it is the experiences of the few that will inform how the majority perceive the regime and how the majority will then now decide to self-censor themselves. And journalists are telling you that we are now, despite our attempts to be critical, we are self-censoring the words that come out of our mouths. We are self-censoring things that we may want to say, things that we may want to post. I mean, fortunately, social media has come to muddy the waters, but I blame political actors and government 99% for the state of today's media. Because more, who are the ones owning the media? Who are the ones exerting pressures on their staff? Which political actors can sometimes come and sit on their media platforms and spew vitriol to people who they feel, offend them. It's the politicians. They own majority of the media space. They exert the influence they want to exert on the editorial direction. And then we come to the activists, those that are the attack dogs. Let me use that. Who owns the attack dogs? Is it any neutral sitting in their corner who comes anytime you post something to call you names, to attack you? I mean, a colleague was sharing an experience yesterday that somebody drove by, stopped him, called him, and said, hey, you are an idiot. Yeah. Because of the kind of critical journalism, this person, I don't want his name, I don't want to mention his name because I don't have permission to so do. But he said it at a platform we were on at yesterday. Are you idiot? Why? Because they feel offended by the kind of critical journalism that, the person is executing. So time for cool heads. The report is a reflection of what we have been saying. So it is time for us to come and concede and come around the table and do the necessary things that we have to do so journalists will begin to feel safer because they are saying they don't feel, safe. Freedom of speech. But freedom after speech is no longer assured. But
Shamima,
people have to be mindful.
Right, but Shami, just briefly, now, if Caleb Kuda goes to a national security, apparatus and decides to take a picture he's picked up and somebody, decides to manhandle him, or you have a certain Azugu who decides to misbehave during a political activity, and so on and so forth. Some have asked, how do you attribute that to the central government and say government? And that's where government seems to have a problem with that. I mean, we don't know anything about these. These are non-state actors who have infracted, who may have abused somebody. So leave us out. National security ministers have got nothing to do with this.
The police is not a non-state actor. The police is not a non-state actor. National security is not a non-state actor. Military is not non-state actors. So yes, there are non-state actors who may sometimes show bravado, but we are talking about some of these state institutions. And we know from history that some of these state institutions always want to reflect what they perceive is the new culture of the day.
Right.
Okay, a new culture which is which they feel is what they are supposed to live by. And we
Okay.
have criticized the police for this.
Okay.
That anytime there's a change of government, they always want to, appear like they are the government. They love the government more than the government itself. And so what is allowed to happen, what is not condemned, what is not punished? Because look, Mora, we are all in this country. We know you will do something, a politician will take it for a hair, hit them harder. So the fact that journalists experience this kind of direct influence, even if we didn't have evidence, we should know reasonably that the same kind of politician or state actor can't call a state institution or a leader of a state institution and give him some hits in the bottom that don't allow this to pass. Don't allow. So I'm saying that precedent is set. There's reality that informs perception. And this perception creates a culture. And that's the culture we're living in now, because we believe that there is an increasing culture of, arbitrariness and forceful application of just laws.
Okay.
Just laws, because nobody is saying that if a journalist does wrong, you shouldn't apply
Okay.
the law.
Right.
There is ways in which you can apply the law, and there's ways in which you can apply the law that indicates a certain mindset. And that mindset is deliberately chosen and applied to serve as,
Okay.
a picture or
Okay.
a deterrent or a force,
Right.
so that people who may think to do same will be, minded that if they attempt, this same kind of bravado will be, what they would experience.
Right.
So these actions,
Okay.
they are deliberate.
So what I'll
And
do-
it has led us
Right.
to 60th
Right.
position
What
in
I'll
the world
do-
ranking.
Yes, what I'll do is that I'll come back to you if you can stay on, because I'd like to pick your thoughts about what the government tells us is the way forward in dealing
Yes.
with these teething problems that we're facing as journalists. So, but whilst at it, let me also bring in Madame Gloria Oforibodi. She's a private legal practitioner who's also joined us to share her thoughts on this very worrying development. And right after this, we'll be moving to our second topic, which has to do with the presentation by the former president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama at Kempinski, where he talks about a new leadership response to the crisis that Ghana is facing, where he professed 13 point solutions and ideas or suggestions that the government, if it follows, would make things better. So we'll look at that as well. But let me bring in Madame Gloria Oforibodi. Madam, it's good to see you. Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
And you've been listening with the rapt attention, I know. What's been going through your mind?
Just listening.
Right. Your thoughts?
Well, I looked at the
ranking.
Yes, I
Right.
did. We were 30 the last time. Now we are 60 when
Right.
it comes to global. And then with Africa, we are the 8th.
We're 8th, right?
Yes. And then I also...
From number 1 to 8.
Oh, yes, number 1 to 8, which
Right.
is quite unfortunate. And the ranking was based on the media landscape, political context, legal framework, economic context, the salaries given to journalists,
Right.
and safety of journalists. And I realized that when it comes to media, the media landscape, Ghana scored 81.42%.
Right.
And then the socio-cultural context, Ghana scored 79.64%. And then with the political context, 66.61%. And safety of journalists, 62.25%. The parameter where Ghana performed below average was the 47.22%. That's the economic context. That's the economic conditions of journalists in one hand, and how the media houses can also make profits and be sustained. So that is the ranking. And I believe that we have to inform our society as to went into this research.
Right.
You know, a breakdown so that everybody will understand. I believe in civic education.
Right.
So you tell them what the rankings were and what went into the rankings. That way we will understand better, and I guess together we'll work with government to improve on it so that we maintain our first position.
Right.
But we will be wrong if we keep saying it was so bad, it was so bad, it was so bad. That scares some of us. In fact, I was so scared. And I was like, what's going on? But when I looked at the breakdown, I said, well, there's hope. We've done not too badly, ranking 8th in Africa, but it could have been better, especially since we were at the first.
Right.
And every effort should be made by all stakeholders, government, media, civil society, non-state actors, to ensure that we maintain the top. But then there's something that I always bring up when I'm talking to students about the freedom and independence of the media.
Right.
Article 164 of the Constitution provides for limitation on rights and freedoms of the media. And the rights and freedoms of the media, which are enshrined in the Constitution, freedom and responsibility of media. I like it, freedom and responsibility of media under Article 162, and then Article 163, which says all media, both state-owned media, shall afford fair opportunities and facilities for the presentation of divergent views and dissenting opinions. At the time of the Constitution, I think it was all state media when it was written in 92, but now we have loads and loads of privately owned media. But the limitations on the rights and freedoms of the media are that the Constitution are subject to the laws that are reasonably required in the interest of national security, public order, public morality, and for the purpose of protecting the reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons.
Wow, that's quite instructive.
Yes, so
Right.
as for the limitations, I always talk about it when I'm educating the public that, yes, there's freedom and independence of the media, but even our Constitution says freedom
It's not absolute.
freedom and responsibility of media. And then limitations on rights and freedoms of the media. And to repeat it, these laws, these freedoms are subject reasonably, and they are reasonably required and limited in the interest of national security. Number 1, public order. Number 2, public morality. Number 3, and fourthly, for the purpose of protecting the reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons.
In other words,
It's clear.
I get it, but
In other words, the
Bring it
media
to
freedom
reality.
and independence of the media also comes with responsibility.
Yes, so-
and even if you are free, remember that the Constitution limits these freedoms when it comes to national security, public order, public morality, and for the purpose of protecting the reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons. So in the context of national security, one has to be absolutely careful when it comes to media, exercising of the media
see,
freedom
the-
and responsibility
but you see,
in the interest of public order.
It's interesting,
and
but-
I am interested in this because,
Right.
I remember recently we did a course on the Bar Association and protecting, or in the framework of national security, strategic national security. And I remember one of the lecturers was talking about his experience in Rwanda and said that when it comes to war, women and children, you have no idea how they suffer.
Right.
I'm a woman. I don't want to suffer. So I'm always very careful about media responsibility when it comes to national security. And then when it comes to public order, as for public morality, we all know what that means, don't we?
Right.
And I guess when it comes to protecting the rights and reputations and freedoms of other persons, you don't need to use the media framework to
defame somebody.
defame someone or to, impinge on the rights and freedoms of other people. So that's all I
Wow,
have
that's
to
quite
say.
interesting.
But
That's quite interesting.
Where do we draw
The line, exactly.
Because my point is that you take Caleb Kuda and what's the name?
Zoe Abu.
Zoe.
Zoe Abubedu.
We have national property rotting away at the
Yes.
national security. So do we draw a thin line and say they went there to film to let us know our meager resources is rotting away, and they are taken on by Azugu and his people and beaten. We get an apology from the National Security Ministry. We are told some people are going to be moved away, and I haven't seen prosecution. And so mine is that we need to draw a thin line between, responsibility and ensuring that the law applies.
Okay.
The law does not permit, if I committed, let's say if I said something that is offensive to the law, I would want a situation where maybe you in a more civilized manner, invite me. I come, if you want to detain me, that is fine. But you don't come surrounding my house, arresting me like a criminal, and throwing me in cells and doing all manner of things to me. Because when you do that, let's remember, let's look at the security. When people begin to lose confidence in the state security, apparatus, that is when people will take the laws into their own hands. Do you understand me? How many times, he lived in Britain. How many times did he see mob justice in Britain? Did you ever see it?
I've seen some, but you finish. I have a
So
point
my
to make
point
here.
is that you would not see it, but go to Circle and go and snatch somebody's phone. The reason why they will beat you up is because they know maybe when they take you to the police, they might not get that needed justice, or some of them, and sometimes it is also the state. So let's have a fine line dividing this, so that at the end of the day, we say the law must be, for me, the law must apply. If you do it, the law should be used on you, and not using brute force to cow you. Once that happens,
So
then we are
you
off.
don't disagree. You don't disagree that when you cross the line, the state institutions must come up.
Oh yes.
So your only challenge is how the state
Yes,
comes
for
after
instance,
you.
others who have mentioned coup in this country, I'm one of the people who say, if you cross that thin line, because I lived through the coups, and I know how we suffered. And so when you say that, I crouch and I ask myself, wow, do you know what you are talking about? If you don't know, go to war-torn countries and see. And so the law must apply in a civilized manner. So I agree, but mine is that the application of the law
Must be across the board.
Must be across the board.
Okay. But
So I think the problem arises when the law is applied selectively. That's where
Yes,
the problem
okay,
is.
but-
Because I don't think we disagree with what the Constitution says.
Yes.
It depends on how it is applied.
Okay,
Certainly.
Moro, but you see, when we started this, I thought we were doing just politics, as in managing the affairs of the state,
Yes.
as opposed to political party politics. But George actually veered into that area. You see, where Madame came in, I spoke about responsibility of the media.
The rights go
And when
with responsibility.
Shamima spoke, I realized that her problem was with the government, where the government must do this and all that. And then there comes the constitution that talks about what responsibility. You remember the Rwanda war?
Yes.
It was triggered by a general.
Reckless speech, yes.
Okay, so if I leave here now and somebody, by the time I get out there and there's a police officer there saying that somebody has reported that I have actually attacked the person and that I am being invited to the police station, I must
Exactly.
honor that invitation.
Right.
After that, investigations are carried out. And then if there's
If you
nothing-
don't honor, they would arrest you.
Exactly. So we are applying it to journalists. If a journalist sits on the radio, on air, and actually churns out anything, and somebody reports it, that journalist must be invited. But we are talking about the procedure in
Yes,
actually inviting
exactly.
the person. So we are taking an exception of the Caleb Kuda case,
Yeah.
where you said that the state institution came out and apologized. That's Caleb and the other lady. They have a right within the constitution to actually go and report and say that my rights have been infringed upon.
Yes.
So they have that avenue. They have not triggered it.
Right.
So let's not sensationalize what is going on. We should thank God that we have institutions within here, that this country that we're actually looking at, we are the beacon of democracy.
Okay.
And across Africa, we're doing it. If you're talking about Burkina Faso and all that,
Yeah.
is it because this organization did not get access to all the information? Because in a country, you go to Rwanda now, they are saying that it's peaceful. But within it, are you allowed to have all the information to do that? So let's look at it. Is because Ghana is opened up. You can say anything that you like.
Okay.
It is recently that Dan Parry came in and then we're actually applying the law.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that we don't have the laws. We
Right.
have the laws.
Right.
But adhering to them is the most important thing.
okay.
So I like the point where he came in and brought in the politics and said that within our political party, a constituency chairman does this and all that. We give birth to this government. So we need to actually lead by example. And I like what he's saying. And for us, we have to do an introspection where a constituency chairman comes in and say, this district commander is not good, so transfer him, and then somebody does that.
That's the reality.
If we transfer that person is not going to go to Burkina Faso. No. He's going to go to another district within the country.
Right.
So I would rather we deal with the problem so that because even if you move the person from the central region to Upper East, you might have a relative here because we deal with the extended family system. So I believe that we should adhere to the guidelines within what we've been given.
I know the National Youth Organizer of the NDC, George Opare, has very interesting views to share on this matter. I'll pick his thoughts briefly, but I need to take a short break. It's less than a minute. So as soon as we come back, I'll pick George's opinion, and then I'll get Shamima to briefly tell us what she thinks about the way forward, which is about 2-3 minutes, and then we'll move on to our next topic. So this is Inside Politics. This is Inside Pages. Apologies for that. Inside Pages. And the WhatsApp line is 0500025621. 0500025621. My name is Moradu. I'll be back with your messages. All right, welcome back. This is Inside Pages on Metro Television. My name is Moradu. Now, your WhatsApp messages, in fact, first of all, we're looking at two critical issues. The one has to do with the Ghana's position as far as the World Press Freedom Index is concerned. We've dropped from 30 to 60, and we say we're all worried. We're trying to identify what the problem is. Our resource persons have given us the opinion as to why we're where we are, looking at it from different perspectives. We'll be moving on to our second topic shortly after I get their concluding remarks on this matter. But now the national organizer of the NDC, that's the Honorable George Oparado, who is also a private legal practitioner, has very interesting views to express as far as what his other colleagues have said on this particular matter. Now, your messages have come in. There's lots of them. So far, I'm looking at about 40. And I don't know how I'm going to deal with this, but maybe what I do is let me get George to... Well, I have monitored him just like I've monitored
Okay.
you. And
Okay.
your views have always been very interesting.
Give us an
so,
interesting.
yes.
Charles is just being mysterious,
Make it
so don't
interesting.
mind.
I know.
But he's my candidate
Charles
for
is-
general.
yeah.
You know, we need
You are
five.
rooting for him.
I don't
The
mind if
people who are
Charles-
rooting for you, it's
don't mind if Charles
Auntie
is
Gloria is
general
rooting for you.
Oh, I
You know,
listened to
John
you
Bona.
recently
Yes.
on mine or one of the stations.
Right.
You were the one.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, you are rooting for him. Dr. Bona is rooting
We
for
want
him.
people who, you have somebody says I'm a regional chairman.
Right.
He goes to sit on radio, spews nonsense, and you don't have a national chairman or national
Yes.
secretary call him to
Yes,
order.
yes,
And when
yes,
you get
yes,
up,
yes,
you say
yes,
we
yes.
shouldn't, we should delink this thing from.
So you
from
like his demeanor?
No. I mean, I've been monitoring him.
Okay.
Even when journalists attacked him and all
Right,
that,
right.
no point did
He
I
was
see
calm.
him.
He was very calm.
He was always,
Yeah.
look at what the law is saying.
Right.
And for me,
Right.
this is what we should be aspiring to do.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Charles,
Yeah.
this appears to be your strong point. People say they like your calm demeanor, but that's not. We're not here to promote
Exactly.
this.
Exactly.
Anyway, George.
So forget about my
Right.
He's just being mischievous. You see, I'll take it from where Senior Counsel Gloria,
Right.
took it from.
No, I'm Gloria. Period.
Where Counsel Gloria took it from.
You lawyers there.
I know the Chief Justice says that we should respect senior.
I know.
So,
Now they say cases
exactly.
senior first,
Senior
seniority
first.
first.
So, but you see,
Yeah.
on a more serious note, she downplays the issues a bit.
Right.
When she says that it is not that bad.
Right.
You don't drop from 30 to 60.
I didn't say it's not that bad. I gave the details.
Yeah,
It's
so-
always good to give
so-
the
so
details
I'm gonna
than
come-
to generalize.
No, I'm gonna come to
I
that.
never generalize.
I'm gonna
I
come
did
to
not
that.
say it's not that bad.
I'm gonna
Please,
come
let
to
me
that.
correct
He's
myself.
talking for
I gave the
2024.
statistics.
I'm going to come to
Right.
that. I'm going to come to
I
that.
gave the statistics.
I'm gonna come
and
to
let's
that.
do that. Let's not just generalize.
I'm going to
It's
come
not
to that.
safe.
Right.
I'm going to come to that. For you to conclude by saying that it is not bad. That was the initial. That is
No,
the
no, no,
conclusion.
no.
No,
I
that
gave
is the
the details.
conclusion.
Ghana
You
performed
gave
average in
the
all
details.
the four,
You gave
except one, which was the economics.
Ghana
Am I
was
right
not.
or wrong?
Ghana was
Right.
not
So,
isolated.
well,
Am I
in
right
that-
or
Yeah, no,
wrong?
I think
Ghana was
when
not
he
isolated.
lands, you can. I think you should. If
Ghana
you
was not-
so I
Ghana-
feel like, I feel like
so that-
No, I think Gloria.
I
Gloria,
told you that we
Gloria,
should not
No,
generalize.
but she's-
Let's give
that's
the
the
Gloria,
details.
Ghana,
So I did
Ghana
not generalize.
was not isolated from the rest of the world. 180 countries were ranked. I'm coming. When Adams made his analysis, he said in the US, A journalist is paid about 5,000 cedis for economic issues, but the US was 40-something.
43.
Right? So you cannot use the economic conditions alone as the yardstick. Out of 180 countries, Ghana ranked 80th. Ghana dropped from 1st to 8th.
60th.
60th.
60th,
yes.
sorry.
Yes, and they did not use just one ranking. They used 5. Why do you want to distort what I said?
I am not
And spoil
distorting.
the-
I am
the-
not
the-
distorting. I am not distorting what
So
you
please
said.
correct.
Madam
I am
Mayor,
not.
please.
Correct.
I am not
I beg
distorting
you.
what you
He's
said.
talking for
I
2024.
am dealing with the issues on
But
a
I
border
did not
basis.
say it's not that bad. I use this, please. I want to be corrected.
I am saying
I
that.
don't want
I
to
am
be-
saying that
so-
Yeah,
from
so-
30th
but
to
be-
60th is bad.
That is your opinion. That's not what I said.
No, but yes.
irrespective.
He's
Madam, when
expressing his
you're
opinion
talking
as
about
well.
here,
Well, express
Yes.
your
let's have
what
some
I
civility
said.
around the table.
Don't
When you're
critique
talking,
me
I'll sit
wrongly.
right here. I'm not quoting you wrongly. It is what you said. It's what I'm just putting it out.
No. Say what you want to say, but don't interpret
To
mine
drop
wrongly.
from 30th to 60th is not good enough. To be first,
In
to
your
8th
opinion.
is not good enough. It's not good enough. And you see, the basis for the rankings is clear. Economic conditions alone could not be the basis for us dropping. When you take safety, Burkina Faso, safety scored 52. We did better than Burkina Faso in terms of safety, but they are doing better than us. So you look at the whole average. The questions we should be asking is why did we drop that much? Because our case is not, we are not an island on our own. It was not just Ghana that was being ranked. Ghana was ranked among 180 countries. And when you put it all together, we came 60th. So clearly there is a problem. Let's not also behave like we don't know that we have challenges and there are issues with safety. As a lawyer, what is responsibility of journalists? What is the responsibility that comes with the profession? Nobody has sat around the table here to say that when a journalist errs or when he gets it wrong, he should not be punished. But what we are saying is that are journalists safe today? If you speak to 10 out of 9, if you speak to 10 journalists, 9 of them will tell you that they are not safe. Not because somebody is running after them, but now they themselves use censorship. And the Constitution talks about censorship. The same Constitution you quoted talks about that there shall be no censorship in Ghana.
9 out of 10, according to you. Yes. According to you.
Will tell you they are not safe. Okay. You know why? You know why they'll tell you they are not safe? If a journalist is gunned down in broad daylight and is killed because he did a story, and a member of parliament sat on a TV station, called him out and said that when you meet him, assault him. And the president of the republic, who is responsible for our safety, does not make any comment and condemn such a person, and no action is brought against such a person. Clearly, if you're a journalist practicing, you should be worried and concerned. When people are chased out of their offices because they've been critical of government, and when we talk about responsibility, it's being critical of government does not mean you're being irresponsible. When you err, we all support it, like the coup issue. The day somebody spoke about a coup, I was on one of the TV stations, and I said that I saw Liberia before the war, and I've seen Liberia after the war. There is no way. A lot of people spoke about the young man who was arrested at the airport. I speak on a lot of issues. I never intervene because we should be able to draw the line. Yeah. When people cross the line, we should allow the laws take its course. We all support that. But when abuses take place and we decide to close our eyes because of our affiliations one way or the other, that is where the problem lies. We have failed journalists in this country. In the last 3-4 years, we've seen the worst form of government when it comes to issues of journalism. We've seen our media stations and radio stations have been closed down because they claim they owe. When we could have had better alternatives of resolving it. And when they were being clamped down, we knew of other media houses that were also in arrest. But because those media houses speaks for the government one way or the other, they were left off the hook. We have seen how media men have been chased out at programs because they are critical of government. Those are the things we are talking about. We've seen how the military have been used to brutalize media men. We've seen how the police have been used. These are state actors. What sanctions have been applied? These are the issues that have affected our ratings, and we have dropped from 1st to 8th in Africa. So these are the issues we should be concerned about. But when we come and sit around a table like this, and then sugarcoat the words, instead of being very critical and voicing it out, maybe it is not you, but tomorrow it will be you. I have seen Manasseh Azuri's articles. And I have also read Elizabeth Ohine's letter to the BBC. Very appalling. Let me leave it there.
So, whilst at it, some very senior citizens have been sending me messages, but have said they don't want their names to be mentioned on air. So, what I'm going to do is that I'll read the messages anyway, but I will not mention their names because I don't have the right to mention their names. So, this one here says that. Let me look at this. So, if we advocate for the independence of institutions, and we all want to hide behind government to avoid calling out state institutions, then we have a problem. That's what this person who sent me the message is saying. And then this one here says.
So the person is also hiding behind your phone to say.
Yes.
He's also hiding. So
That's
exactly the point. So that person is also hiding to say this.
The very thing that the person is complaining about, the person is doing the same thing. If you want,
No,
yes.
But that's freedom of
appropriate
speech.
The person,
someone
let him
comment?
mention his name.
says,
Made
feel free to read, but please don't mention my name.
Because usually I know that.
No,
when
so
you
he's
make
also
a
hiding
comment,
to
you
that.
have to take
I mean, normally
responsibility.
He's
people have
as
options.
guilty as those
Yes. No, people have
And then,
options. It's
but
either they
you know what?
say-
You know what's going to happen. What the person, then somebody
Right.
out there will say, "Oh, on Metro TV,
Yeah.
somebody even sent a message to
Right,
say this," and then
right.
it becomes the truth.
Right,
You understand?
right.
So we have to own what we
Okay.
say.
All right.
So
let's.
I would have even wished that those who don't want you to mention
it's either
their
you-
names, you don't read.
You don't read them.
You don't read them.
You know, if Dr. If Dr.
Yeah,
Adams
because
would not-
I
if
think
Dr.
that-
Adams will not send you a message and says,
Yeah, because my
I
point
think
is
the
that
ethics are that you take responsibility
I agree.
for your
Yeah.
conduct.
keep your
Yeah,
opinion to
yeah.
yourself.
But,
But
then
the moment you say I don't
so
mention
what
my
I
name,
normally would do is that I'll also analyze the person's comments.
So I
If
would,
it's-
I
if
can
it's not
send
injurious,
in your
then I'll
program.
just-
I can send you an information.
Right.
And I said this is a material for you to.
For you
Yes,
privately.
that's fine.
Yes,
That's
but
fine.
I would not say
That's
do
fine.
not mention my name
That's
when we are
fine.
discussing
So
freedom of speech.
So
and
let
all
me read.
that.
Let me read those who do not have a problem with me mentioning
Yes.
their names. So they've sent about 50
Yes.
of them. I don't know how I'm going to do this.
You can
Okay,
summarize.
so yes, I can summarize. Wow. Okay, so this one here says from Farcom and Amasaman. I find this subject so intellectually stimulating and scintillating because while most of what the members of the panel are saying is true, the dynamics of politics is not as simple as we would wish it was. It involves serious engineering, which requires sacrifice and compromise in order to achieve. It says, okay, so it goes on and on and on. And then this one here says that, that blah, blah, blah. Okay, Ghana's abysmal performance in the rankings cannot be justified even by rocket scientists when, as a country, we had the closure of radio stations perceived to be aligned to the opposition party in a Rambo style, coupled with a gruesome murder of journalists and various degrees of assaults being meted out as signs of the fourth state of the realm. The intolerance posture of government and on dissenting views is one which cannot be justified. That's David Edu from Tema West constituency. Good morning. Asked the... Who is Bernard? Okay, the institution he's heading how much did he I don't think this is so. Say, good morning. I'm Enoch from Teshin. We have a serious situation on ground when you talk about this government. It's either you are being transferred, you're forced to resign, or attacked by MPP government. And that won't change. Ask the government appointees, headmasters, they have all issues, but they can't talk. Let's take a good look at our legal system now. I mean the courts. You can't tell what will happen. God bless my homeland Ghana. Nee from Dansuman says, good morning. Please, is this report different from what Mr. Sam Jonah said a few weeks ago? Sir, we all see what is going on. And this one says, good morning. I'm Bray from Tema. My contribution this morning is that the level of protection that is and the support that journalists need in this country is very low, most especially in these 2-3 years that has passed. And the government needs to sit up and make a change. But I have noticed something for our media in Ghana, and that is most media houses in Ghana seems to allow only follow trending issues for the past few days, and it goes on and on and on. And then H. Tikuma Tamale Central says, good one, I agree that the way we choose our leaders affects us largely. Also, the government must accept blame in good faith and stop defending the indefensible. Finally, Benjamin from Koforida says, good morning. Please, my question this morning is that should press freedom be earned or be given? That's his question. Shamima, if you're there, just a minute. Way forward. Okay, I think we've lost Shamima.
I just want to
Right.
say that much as people belong to different political parties and politics is about each party trying to win the electorate's votes.
Right.
At the end of the day, Ghana is Ghana. Ghana has to survive.
Right.
We can't demolish Ghana and expect that next time Ghana will be there for us to campaign and win elections. So please, if something is wrong with Ghana, as I indicated, it's mandatory that government, the media, stakeholders, non-state actors, state actors, civil society, religious, traditional, we all work together to put it right.
Yeah.
And that's why I said that if Ghana is now 60th instead of 30th, we have to work together to put it right. But then when you look at the scores, we performed average on all the 4 indicators except the economic situation
Right.
of journalists.
Okay.
So that's also something that's applicable to everybody. The workers are complaining. So that's what we look at. But I'm not going to say that it's bad. No.
But don't fault.
And-
George has KPIs
so,
to meet.
Yeah, so
He
I
has
would
KPIs
say,
from the NDC side to meet.
well,
so his
whatever
bosses
it
are
is,
watching
but
him.
NDC has to keep Ghana intact. MPP has to, so that as every
No,
4 years we can.
Yeah, he has KPIs too.
4 years,
We'll
the
have a
electorate
country to
can
live
be.
in.
Yes, we have a country. Nobody wants to be a refugee. And I'll
Right.
repeat, women and children suffer most
Yeah.
when there's war and
I
civil
agree.
conflict.
Marginalized, yes.
I don't want to suffer.
All right. So